this is a big order reunion. Can you talk about that?
They kind of happened simultaneously, actually. That I had a meeting with Ben Jackson, who's Jude's production partner, about the order. And during that meeting, we started talking a little bit about this idea that Kate and I were developing, about a restaurateur and his brother, and the kind of that evoked a certain era of New York that I think Jude really sort of responded to. And so I think we were beginning to develop this with Jude and Jason while we were about to start shooting the order. And so it was just like a really great sort of connection that we made with Jude, and had an amazing experience on the order, and then just had this amazing experience with Jason as well. So it all sort of happened kind of about the same time.
And then I was trying to find a director to do the last two. They were like, well, what do you think about Justin Kurzel? I said, you can't get Justin Kurzel to get his hands dirty with this. No, we just finished a project with him. What? So it was great.
Jude and I were still pretty kind of like flexible on who was going to play what part, and we just started talking about it and mutually agreed that me playing the guy who doesn't make a lot of good decisions, it would be a little bit more sort of unexpected and potentially interesting. And fortunately, having read the first two episodes, I kind of had an angle on my version of that guy, and so I said, if you agree that would be an interesting way to go, I've got a good plan for him, and he was very excited about that, as I remember it. So that was sort of the loose decision made then, and then it just got progressively more solid.
What did you love about the project when they pitched it?
Well, the potential in all the characters and the community in the four walls of this one place, and capturing the energy of a certain slice of New York nightlife, and all the ambition, romance, tragedy, drama, backstabbing, and more that could take place within it. But honestly, at its heart, I love this relationship. I love what was clearly going to come out of this relationship with these brothers, and just how far you go with someone that you made a great point. I remember when we were talking about it, that, if they were best buddies, it'd be a very, very different story. Because ultimately one of them would or could turn around and say, you know what, I'm done. I really am walking away.
Yeah.
Well, we both say that to each other in this several times, but the thing is, it's your brother. You kind of can't.
Yeah.
No matter what. And it just nurtured this remarkable relationship that I was really curious to plug into, because there was all this potential in the character I was going to play. There was all this potential in what I knew Jason was going to bring out of Vince, but there was all this magic in the middle where we kind of thought, well, yeah, but I don't know kind of how he's going to respond to his brother in this way. And that's a kind of unknown. And we were lucky enough as a creative team to keep that pretty fluid throughout, just to see where we wanted that particular energy to lead us.
There's a good cop, bad cop kind of built in with this, in that, my character is the one that would probably be a bit more permissive of those who were overindulging at a bar. His character is a little bit more sort of keeping an eye on the bottom line and understanding that it's not just a social gathering, it's actually a business too. There is stuff that we get into about the workings of the bar and the sort of the admin stuff of it all, but it's really not about this bar, nightclub, restaurant. It's really about the stuff that happens outside of it. That's just basically the workplace where we sit, because that's ultimately a bit more interesting than.
Also, would you say stuff that got us there? I mean, it's interesting you ask that, because, the reason, and all of this is revealed, the reason this bar was even created by the brothers has a story. And then the first kind of iteration of the bar and why that didn't work has a story. And then me taking it on and making a success of it, you coming back, you're just kind of joining the history of this establishment. It's really about the relationships and the sort of lifeblood, if you like, of the people that are around it, but very much about the brothers at the heart of it.
You wanted to approach this like a film. Talk about that.
I was just sort of initially really humbled and taken aback by how generous Zach and Kate and Jude were in approaching me to basically kind of do what I did for Ozark, which was to not only be in it, but direct the first two, oversee the whole sort of thingy, and hire the other directors, and set the whole thing up and manage it. And that's just a really generous, scary thing, I would imagine, for people who create something to then do. I treated that with a great deal of responsibility, hopefully, and care, to go through it. And they couldn't have been better partners to me through all of that. And fortunately, we had identical tastes throughout. We were all kind of rowing in the same direction. They were looking for the same type of tone and aesthetic that really excites me about directing, about sort of managing the four corners of something, and that the crew is as important as the cast, and that I just think audiences nowadays are looking for all of that. That it's got to be good and look good and feel good, and you just can't really skimp on any department nowadays for the kind of audience that is out there for this type of stuff.
Is it easier to make movies nowadays?
It's very hard.
Yeah.
But if I'm really honest, I was thinking about this the other day when I started 30-something years ago. I remember everyone saying how hard it was then too.
Yeah.
It seems to be progressively more difficult, just because the stakes of the finances
Yeah.
are much more. It's simply more money. Takes more money to sell a film nowadays,
Yeah.
and so you've got to kind of round the edges a bit more, because you don't have the luxury of alienating certain people. You got to have as many people in the tent as possible, and so for big money features, I think you kind of can't be as specific as you can be, I think, nowadays with streaming. Although streaming is not a cheap thing either, but at least you don't have the cost to spend money on the 30-second ad as much as you do in features. So you can be a bit more specific with the content, and not be as afraid of alienating certain people, because you don't need as many people watching it to justify the expense.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.